How's it going, Front Runner family? It is once again one of our talks in a series of interviews we've been conducting on Zoom, catching up with the top coaches in the APSA Premiership, just to find out as to how their seasons have been going. Of course, before we went into the lockdown, what they've been doing in the lockdown, and how they see all of this playing out. Joining me today, I'm honored to welcome Steve Barker, the coach of Stellenbosch FC. Many of you know him from his tenure, of course, with the likes of Tuks and him as a player in his playing days. So, Coach Barker, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Yes, happy to be chatting with you and looking forward to the discussion.
Great. So let's just start in terms of, what you've been doing as far as the lockdown is concerned, in terms of your own kind of, maintaining fitness. I'm sure, in speaking to a lot of coaches, there's a psychological component as well that they're trying to get across to their players. How have you been kind of handling the situation?
Kamza, it's been obviously, it's never easy, but I think, from a personal point of view, it's been good. The first 2-3 weeks was a bit tough, and then eventually when one sort of got into a good routine, I try to be positive about it and looked at it as, as coaches don't always really get a decent break, just to get your mind off the game. Last season we got promoted, so there wasn't too much rest between the two seasons. We had to gear and get prepared for the PSL season. So not much break, so it was good for me to just be at home with my family, my loved ones. Also got into a nice routine myself, exercising twice a day. I've kept up with that. So, the mornings is housework, gardening, cleaning the house, helping with the dishes, cooking, etc. And then I do a bit of strength training at 11. And then between sort of 12 and 3 is my work time, where I just study a bit of, read a bit, look at some documentaries, look at videos, just thinking of our season and so on. And then the afternoon, another small session with my daughter. Yeah, and then it's evening, and then it's catching up on some TV time that I don't always get time to watch. So the family are enjoying it because there's no live football on TV. It's all about series. So yeah, it's been tough, but at the same time, it's been a good reflective opportunity for myself. Personally.
Let's speak about that reflection as far as, 12 to 3 on a daily basis, when you're kind of honed in on the football and how the season has transpired. What are you picking up? What are some of the learnings, looking at past games, looking at maybe how that run-in before the break was looking? And, they always speak about a game of two halves. You've almost had a season of two halves where it didn't start out the way you wanted it, perhaps. And then, just kind of this bounce back ability that you found.
Yes, obviously when we got promoted, and we kept a large majority of our squad from the NFD. So we knew the beginning of the season would be tough in terms of just experience levels of the players, adaptation to the PSL. So once January came, we did strengthen the squad relatively well, in my opinion. I think we've done the best business in January. Bringing in players like Nathan Sinkala, Ali Msengi, Asavele and Bekile. So we brought in some players that have been there, they've been in Champions League finals, and they've got that experience. And I think all the processes that we had put in place from the beginning of the season started paying off. The hard work that was done from day one after we got promoted started kicking into place. And I think I was able to have a bit more continuity and selection. I think some of the younger players that now had 6 months under the belt had got sort of used to the league, the demands of the league. And that's hence I thought, the second half of the season, we've been a bit more solid, a bit stronger. We can go into games now with the belief that we can win every game. The first sort of maybe 15 matches we were going in, with a mentality of not to get beat. Now our mentality is one of, we want to go into matches and we want to be winning. So you're right when you say it has been two halves. It started tough, but it has progressively improved. But, as you look at the log table, there's still a lot of work to be done.
No, for sure. Maybe let's rewind a little bit, because there's always talk around how you guys are somewhat ahead of schedule. When you jumped on board, what was the mandate then? Were you ahead of schedule or on time? And what does the mandate remain now? Are you the trappings of your own success, having achieved that promotion are the expectations much higher, or are you dealing with a club and an ownership that understand the rigors of the league that you're currently in?
Look, our new ownership, as you know, the club was bought by the Stellenbosch Academy of Sport, who in turn are owned by Remgro, who are in turn, sort of owned by Mr. Rupert. So, they've been involved in sport for many years, involved with Saracens rugby overseas, with the Western Province rugby team, currently with the Blue Bulls. So the management are very sort of solid in understanding where we are as a club. Initially, when they bought the club, we had a 5-year plan to get the club promoted to the PSL. It was achieved within 1 year. So we were well ahead of schedule in terms of where we wanted to be. One of our strategic objectives is to be a successful PSL club. We need to define ourselves exactly what is being a successful PSL club in the context of Stellenbosch Football Club. And the mandate at the beginning of the season was just to, maintain and retain our status. I think we all understand that the first 2 years are probably the most difficult in doing that. And then once you've done that, you're laying a foundation for future sort of success and sustainable success. So, many people may think there's a lot of money thrown at the club, but it's not the case. We run the club on the grant and the sponsorship that we get from Rama, and that's what the club is run on. So we believe that hard work, laying a foundation, we will then have sustained success over a long period. And the club's here to stay for many years. We're a club that was bought and is there for the community and to give the kids in the Winelands, Greater Winelands region, opportunity to play professional football. So there's a sound plan ahead for the club, and we know that it doesn't happen overnight. But definitely we are ahead of where we want to be, and that's important that we don't drop the ball and become complacent. It's our responsibility to keep pushing.
You get that feeling overseas when you look at clubs like Athletic Bilbao, who only insist on kind of recruiting from the Basque area and players in their area. Is that the sort of philosophy that you're trying to instill with Stellenbosch? And in your mind, the mix of, how many players are local boys in that starting 11, how do you find that balance should be?
Again, one of our strategic objectives is to be a homegrown based team. But unlike maybe Atletico Bilbao, where there's a lot of good structures and grassroots level sort of development, we don't have that as yet. So we were very blessed and fortunate that our core group of local players that helped us get promoted, people like Lee Langeveld, Ashley de Prier, Leletu Skellum, are really talented footballers. So it's not easy to start with a core group and then every year to add 5-6 players. It's not possible at the stage. We understand it, but we have now started an academy, at under 12 level. So we've got a 12, 14, 16, 18 level team. So I anticipate the next, couple of years, it'll be difficult for us to find homegrown talent to go straight into our PSL team. But with the structures that we've put in place, I believe in years to come, we will start producing and developing our own talent into the first team. So again, it's a process. That doesn't happen overnight, but we're very pleased in the numbers that we have currently in our first team. We've got 5 local based born in Stellenbosch players, and I think that's very good for where we're at as a club. But in years to come, we would like to increase that number, but we have to put in the hard yards first.
Right. Okay. And then in terms of imparting that vision, you said you brought in players like Sinkala, Mbegile. They obviously understand your long-term plan. What are they looking for in return? Is it obviously there's a sporting project in prospect for them, and how do you then align that with players who are used to, like you're saying, playing at the top level?
Yeah, I think a lot of, our ability to have brought in a player like Nathan Sinkala, Robin Johannes, Asavile and Bekele, Mark van Heerden at the beginning of the season, established players, Granville Scott, Ryan Moon. I think they sort of looked at the club, and I think these days players have access to social media, the ability to look at what a club, as we do when we scout players, you want to look at their character, their behavior, their sort of consistency, where, will they take the club forward? And I think players these days do the same. They look at a club and they they see and deem it as an opportunity for them to go. So for us, I think they looked at the club and can see a solid sort of structure, a solid plan at the club, and and it helps when you're in the Cape Winelands and there's lovely mountains around, and you live in a town like Stellenbosch and in Cape Town. So it is a bit of an attraction. Boy de Jong, the goalkeeper we signed from Holland, obviously a draw card was living and being in Cape Town for his family, as well as Nathan. So number one, the location, and secondly, the ambition and the strategy of the club. I think players believe in what we want to do, and they want to be a part of it. And the club is renowned. The group themselves, Remgro, is renowned for, when players reach the end of their careers and maybe are no longer involved with football, there's perhaps opportunities within the greater scheme of things, whether it be in coaching or maybe something else. So we will also try and provide opportunity for after football. As we have done with Angelo Caspe, who finished his career last year with us. He's now a team manager. And there's a couple of players currently who have indicated that in a couple of years' time, they would like to, go into coaching. So we're going to start a program where we get them a bit more involved with coaching aspects. So I think if players look at the bigger vision, they see it as a club that is perhaps a good opportunity for them to play, number one, and perhaps then after football.
Great. I mean, you touched on coaching just now. Let's talk to that. What would you say is your philosophy, your style? What would be the hallmark of a Stevie B team?
Yeah, Kamza, it's been a bit. It hasn't been easy. When you're taking clubs from lower divisions into higher divisions, sometimes it's easier to impart your philosophy at a lower level, and then you become a bit more strategic when you get to the PSL level. You take it game by game, week by week. But I do believe that with a solid foundation that we are building, I can impart the philosophy that I want. It starts for me. I've always been in education, training, and development. Even before I went into full-time coaching, I was in the National Defence Force. I was in the Air Force for 18 years. And I was in education, training, and development. So I believe in creating a conducive environment for players to develop to their full potential, both as a footballer and as a person. I think it starts there, creating a conducive environment for players to be successful, to be happy, and give them that environment that they can grow. So it starts there. Secondly, on the field of play, I've always, wanted to coach the perfect football match. I think, us coaches perhaps all have that dream to have a 95-minute, 96-minute game where everything just goes to perfection. So I demand a lot from our players. I demand, commitment, effort, work ethic. I think, a lot of it starts with the players' mentality. A Steve Barker team for me is never easy to beat. We have a hard to beat mentality. But I do think as we grow as a club and we can have a structure where we have a juniors and our MDC team now, we're working on a solid philosophy that we want to take the club forward in the way we play. We want to play with a lot of energy, with a lot of pace, with a lot of we want to attack the opponents even when they have the balls. We want to be attacking them, forcing errors from them. We want to play with a high level of pace and a lot of energy in the team and a lot of belief in one another. So, currently I haven't had one it's just the way it is, but we are definitely going to develop one. And I trust in years to come that you will be able to see that.
Some coaches get tagged with, relegation specialist tags. Some coaches are known to only work with the top and best players. You're known for being able to grab a team by the scruff of its neck and almost drag it up to the top flights through hard work and grit. How have you managed to do that and get that right? Because that is surely the dream of any coach who's in a lower division, is to be able to do that consistently. What do you think has been the reason that you're able to do that?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's not a easy job to do. In the lower echelons of South African football is tough. And the National First Division is a tough league. So, what drives me every day when I was in that league is you trust and you hope you'll get opportunities from PSL teams. But also if they don't, the phone doesn't ring for a job, then you want to be in the PSL, then you've got to then get there yourself. You can't rely and wait for other people. So I think just that drive to want to be playing against the best teams, playing in the best stadiums, and also building a culture and environment for players that they also deserve the same and want the same. So, I want players that want to be playing in the PSL and want to be not just a mid-table team or fighting relegation, season after season. I want to build a team and a club that, we can also be challenging at the top end of the league and, making semi-finals and cup finals. But I can't get ahead of myself either. I also got to understand that'll take a little bit of time. But yeah, it's been gratifying and satisfying when you change people's lives. Take them from a lower level to a high level, and things change for them. And you have that dream together as a group of people to get to the PSL. So, it was great when I was with Tuks and we got promoted. It was again great with Stellenbosch when we got promoted. I went to Amazulu for that short period of time where I sort of tried to get them out of the relegation zone. I went there after 11 games. They only had 4 points, no wins. We then ended up almost on the last day of the season. We had to beat Maritzburg to stay up. Unfortunately, it didn't go away. So yeah, I've promoted 2 teams. It's been nice when you're at the top of a table and you're going into matches wanting and knowing you can win every game. To then going to Amazulu and almost saving them from relegation. It was a tough last day at the office. But yeah, the turnaround that I was able to make at the club, I was very proud of at that stage. Now my aim is to be a coach of a team that can become a solid team and become a successful team and be challenging.
I think that's, a lot of people look at your career and say, this is, your just desserts. This is what you deserve, having kind of flirting with, going up and coming down. Stability now, it seems you found with a team. And this is the culmination of all those years of sacrifice and hard work.
Yes, definitely. I mean, sometimes it astounds me when you win a league with a team and then after 7 games in the PSL, people start questioning, are you going to keep your job? And, is your job safe? I can't see how in 2-3 months you all of a sudden become a bad coach. You've just promoted a team. You've just, got close to 60 points in a league season. And then suddenly after 7 games in the PSL, people start questioning. So it's part of the job. It's what we have to deal with as coaches on a daily basis. You're under scrutiny but yeah, just going a bit off track from your question, but yeah, it's deserved now. So it's a question of not being complacent and continuing to strive to be better as a person, as a coach every day. Our philosophy at the club is the next session is the most important session. If it's the next training session, that's the most important. After that, the recovery, the meal, the sleep, the next day's training is the most important part. And that's how we take it. Every single part of our build up and preparation to a match is the most important. And hopefully if we can get that right on a daily basis, improve on a daily basis, do things better on a daily basis, grow as a club and individuals on a daily basis, then the team collectively will just get better and better. So, we don't focus ahead too far. We just focus on, and that's why it's been a bit frustrating not being able to train and coach right now. We just, I think hopefully by the end of the week, there'll be a bit more indication. I do believe the PSL executive are meeting on Thursday and there are sort of discussions. So we will hopefully have a bit of indication of if the league's going to resume, and when we can get back to some training. So looking forward to that this period has made me reflect. Even the players, I think a lot of them realize what they have is really special. To be able to play football as what you love and to get paid for it, to entertain people, and then again it's taken away from you like it has. I think a lot of the players have realized the privilege they have of being professional footballers, and I think we're all going to come back, I'm sure, hungry like lions and ready to train hard and get back on the field.
And then how much peace of mind do you derive from having a board who understand how this all works? When you look at the culture that, it seems that some clubs aren't in harmony with their coaches, where coaches seem to go through all that speculation about their position on their own without having their club come to bat for them. I mean, that peace of mind must be priceless in what is already a high stress job.
Yes, definitely. I think, if you get appointed by a board of directors, or, club owner appoints you, I think they have to have the trust in that appointment, and they have to support you. I think that's what boards are there for. They, collectively, you've got to discuss things on a regular basis, be on the same page, have the same vision, know how you're going to get there. And evaluate yourselves on a daily, weekly basis. It's not always a top-down thing. It's also a down-top, on management giving enough support. Are they providing you the necessary sort of tools and equipment to able to make you successful and make the club successful? So if you have that harmony and togetherness, and you have a shared vision, and you have robust discussions. So when things aren't going well, then, we have to sit down and discuss it and see and find solutions for it. And I think in that way, a club can grow and develop, and together you can become successful. And, when there's lack of communication and lack of foresight and lack of sort of, support towards the coach and the players, it does become more difficult, and it can spiral and lead to things happening that perhaps could have been prevented.
Sure. Now, communication for me seems to be a very strong tenet of how you approach things. And I'm sure it was part of the reason that we've seen a resurgence in players such as Ryan Moon, who's coming through and scoring critical goals. What did you communicate to him that you've now seen him take on board and obviously, seen an upsurge in his performances?
Yeah, look, with Ryan, it was a special case in terms of, he was very young when he went to Kaizer Chiefs. He played his sort of football in Maritzburg. Steve Compella recognized his talents and his qualities, and took him to Kaizer Chiefs. And being young and a high expectation of being a striker at Kaizer Chiefs, was not easy. But I felt, he had grown at the club, and he was starting to show signs that he could kick on. Unfortunately, they didn't renew his contract. He tried to get a move overseas, and then when I realized that he was available and maybe he wasn't going to sign overseas, I was really, happy to bring him on board. And I just communicated to him that he's got immense talent. He's got some attributes of being a striker that many other strikers don't have in our country. He's really one of the best headers of a ball. Attacking the ball, he's got a great left foot. He's a good finisher. He's got good size. He's athletic. He's mobile. He's a great character. He's a winner. So he's got all the attributes. It's now just a question of just believing in himself. Not putting too much pressure on himself. Just train every day hard, work at your game, and have the belief in yourself. I believe Ryan has got great potential to kick on and to be a top striker in our country for many years to come.
And I mean, how do you see that development? Are you looking to hold on to your best talent, or is it also partly because of the nature of the business of a soccer club that you cultivate talents and then move them on so that you can bring up new talent and, of course, sustain the club from a financial perspective?
Yeah, it's also another balancing act because, my attitude and my CEO, Mr. Rob Bernardi, if a player gets a better opportunity, whether it's at a bigger club, maybe perceived bigger club in this country, overseas move, and it enhances the player's career, we're not going to stand in their way. I think if we're true to ourselves and we believe in developing players and providing them opportunity, not just at Stellenbosch, but further, and the move is right for them, and we believe that it'll enhance the player's career, then we support it, and we actually, help the player achieve that opportunity. So we're never going to hold back a player if he's got better and bigger opportunities. And, it makes us feel proud that we've played a part in the bigger, greater development of players in South Africa. And I would be more than happy that players move on, make Bafana teams, go overseas and play overseas. Fortunately, I've had that with players like Andile Jali, Bongani Zulu, who I've worked with, Bongani Kumalo, players that have gone overseas and done well. And to know that you've played a part in their development, it is very satisfying. And it's good to see the players develop and reach their full potential.
Let's talk about you've dropped some names there that hark back to that impressive Tuks team that you had with Jali, the likes of Penyo Mongala. There was Ntokosizi Yende. They managed some famous sculpts in that time. What was so special about that group of players and that team in your mind?
Yeah, it was a very special team. It was it just, I don't know, it just seemed to have happened by design that the players, we just sort of had that youthful exuberance about us. We found some hidden and raw talent like Yende. He came through a trial process. People like Paul Matsi was, he was disillusioned with football, playing at Arcadia. Things weren't working out. He was at the brink of giving up football. We brought him in. We had a couple of warriors also there, people like Warren Bishop, Goodman Saotsi, and those type of players. And yes, we found some special talent in people like Andile, who came through the Coca-Cola program, if you recall, and people like Peña Mongala. And I think the team just gelled, really. We had that cup run where we went to the final. It's one of my favorite memories of all time was the win against Chiefs, obviously. The 4-3 game where it went to extra time and the whistle blew that didn't blow, and Jimmy Tarr led us through. So, yeah, it was a special team, and we done really well. And again, that season, the success, people moved on. Sizi Yende moved on, Peña Mongala moved on, and Dile Jali moved on. So we lost the great quality of the squad that moved on, and the following year was tough for us. It was still when the NFD was in streams. I don't know if you recall, we had the two streams, upstream and the downstream, and we fought a bit of a relegation battle the following season. But yeah, 2 years later was able to again build a solid enough team to challenge and win the league and get promoted. So yeah, some special moments and some special players in that group.
Great. And looking at the here and the now, I mean, we're all stuck under the lockdown. It's the same for everybody. But there's a lot of talk as to how things should be resolved as far as the season is concerned. How do you see it playing out ideally? I mean, what do you think is the fairest way to do it? Because, we're seeing court cases all over the world where teams are saying, no, you can't just call it. There's so much at stake in promotion and relegation and, continental cups and such. In your mind, what do you think is a solution or one to look at when the administrators start, going through what's going to help finalize the season?
Yeah, again, it's a difficult question. One can look. There's two schools of thought. The one school of thought is obviously to get back on the field as soon as possible. That will help sustain clubs, a bit of the income. It lift the mood of the country going forward. Something to look forward to watching. So I do think that must be still the first option. If and when we are able to resume training, to get back on the field of play and play out the season. I still feel that if it is safe and conducive to be able to do it, and we don't put the players at risk, then that's the right way to go. I also do believe, on the other hand, is that we have to have a cutoff time, in my opinion. You have to have a date where you say, well, if we can't get back to training on this date and playing the league by this date, then we need to seriously consider perhaps another option. So I'm hoping that by the end of this week or shortly, we will have that sort of resolution that we want to get back on the field. We want to try. However, if we can't do it by this date, then we have to look at other options. So yeah, it's a 50-50 call for me. It's you've got to be guided by the experts. You've got to be guided by the medical expertise and scientific expertise we have in the country, of which we have immense. And we just need to be patient. And if we do return, it must just be at the right time and not put people at
Right.
risk.
Speaking about that latter option, that if there is a cutoff, then what do you, in your mind, is the fairest? A reset in terms of, we just kind of scratch the season and as is, where we take the results as they stand, or a points per game? Like, in your mind, what is the fairest solution? Should they say, listen, guys, it's not going to happen. We're not going back to the field. Out of those three, what do you think is the most equitable way to end the campaign?
Again, a very tough question. Obviously, I've given it some thought, and I think the fairest way for me, I think, which would cause the least unhappiness, would be to keep the 16 teams that are in the PSL. Find a formula or a way with the NFD, whether it's average points per game, and work that out till the end of the season, or make the rest of the games all 1-1 draws. and the league doesn't change and Ajax then, gets promoted. Obviously, Swallows are lying second and Tongati are third. Perhaps there's a once-off game that they play once lockdown is over and the winner gets promoted, which then allows two teams from the SAFA structures to also then get opportunity to get promoted to the National First Division. I think that would be the least cause of unhappiness, as opposed to, relegating teams in the position they are now, and they would have had the opportunity to maybe have not been relegated. So that's my personal opinion. And it's just really my own thinking and personal, but I will support whatever decision is made from the PSL management and executive. But yeah, to answer your question directly, I feel that would be the fairest.
Okay, fair enough. I think, at this time, all solutions are kind of on the table until we get direction from the higher ups. Coach Barker, thank you so much. I really have enjoyed speaking to you. I wish you the best. As far as your family are concerned, I hope they get to enjoy you for a few weeks longer. And then I hope you get to do what you love, which is, of course, coaching football in a few weeks too.
Thank you. It was a pleasure speaking to you, Kamza. A great interview, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for your time. You keep well, and send our regards to your family and to the team and everyone involved with Stellenbosch FC.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sir.